We've hit a century at RNT Fitness Radio, and to mark the special occasion, I've decided to bring on my greatest mentors and supporters in my life, my parents. In this candid episode, we dive into their reaction to my change in career choice, their roots in Africa, how it shaped them and molded them in their lives, social stigmas and community shifts, the secrets to successful relationships, both romantically and within families, where my drive comes from, and their thoughts on what we're building at RNT. Nothing at RNT would be possible without their support. They've been there through every step of the way along this rollercoaster journey, the highs, the lows, and it only makes sense to mark episode 100 with my parents. I hope you enjoy this one. Okay, and welcome to episode 100, and I am joined on this very special episode and milestone by my parents, who are arguably my greatest mentors and supporters. So welcome to you both on the show. How does it feel to be on episode 100?
Honoured.
Very privileged.
Awesome. So what I thought we'd do today is almost dissect where I've come from and see where my roots have come from, and ultimately go deep into the people that created me. So we're going to kick it off by going right back in time and taking it all the way back to Africa, where my parents come from and were born. So my mum was born in Uganda and my dad was born in Zambia. So I want to start right from there and discuss Africa and go into the roots of essentially where my family comes from.
Okay.
Well, I was born in Zambia, as most of you know, and came to this country in 1972 purely for education reasons. And even now, 47 years down the line, Zambia is still within me, in that you can take me back to Livingston, where I was born, with the famous Victoria Falls, and I can blind walk you through it.
So if anyone's up for it.
Yeah, let me know. I can organise tours, RNT tours.
So you were born on Victoria Falls?
I was born in Livingston, where the big famous Victoria Falls is. We had it at our doorstep. That's literally what it was.
Amazing.
So I was born Uganda, East Africa. We came here in 1972 when Idi Amin expelled all the Asians. And it's very, very green there. So we know everything about vegetables and fruits in our family. We're a foodie family I come from.
So what was it like getting expelled from Uganda? You know, what was that process like? How old were you at the time? What was it like?
I was 8 years old when I came. So my sister, she knows more about everything. She remembers more Uganda than I do, but I can still, because it was so a big event in our lives, you know, I remember vividly. So we had to just leave everything. My father and my uncles had big businesses. They had to just wrap up and come to this country in 72, and we were living in camps.
Was there a lot of violence there, or was it?
No.
Or was it very much a smooth transition from Africa?
Oh yes, there was violence at that end. You know, they were just killing people left, right, and centre. My dad was captured. It was only because he knew one of the police officers there that, you know, they didn't kill him off.
Wow.
But yeah, it was always touch and go at every stage. So when we came here, we were living in camps for about 6 months, where we also come from a business. I come from a business background. So my father and my uncle started a shop there, but getting everything from
shop in the camp.
In the camp, so it was getting everything from. It was like a little. What would you call that? You know, just tables on tables.
It was a makeshift, very much
shop.
a makeshift arrangement, whereby they got things
from the village and then just brought it in for everybody just to feel homely, more homely.
Essentially the ultimate entrepreneur.
Yes, always. That's my father and my uncle, always entrepreneurs. And that's how we get it as well. So, whereas Dipak came for education purposes.
I came purely for education purposes. Both my parents, especially my late father, he thought education was the foundation, and he strongly believed it. And his view was that if you have a good education, you can go pretty much anywhere in the world. And he was told by or advised by the principal that, why don't you send him abroad? There's potential. And that's how I came to the UK.
So you were living in...
Initially I stayed with family and friends. I stayed with my aunt and then went to boarding school. After she got married, I stayed with family and friends until your grandmother came in 1976. One of the things the difference between those people from East Africa and those from Zambia was whenever they sent people over, whenever the Zambians came over, usually it was just one parent came with the kids, whereas with East Africans, the whole family came. It's just one of the traits you find.
And how did you find not having your parents for those 4 years?
You just adapted because you live with people.
I think you didn't know any difference because everybody from Zambia used to come, like all his cousins.
Oh, so all the cousins came over, but there was no...
My cousins came later on.
Not immediate cousins.
The extended family cousins, and they were sort of... Their parents came in shifts and everything, and there was a rota, whereas I stayed, and it was just a way of life. We didn't know any different. We always talk about the 1970s experience, which will resonate with a lot of the RNT parents or grandparents, is that when you came to this country, things were quite difficult. You were living in rented accommodation. Your first priority was to find a house. Once you got the house, chances were there was no central heating. So that was the first thing. You get central heating in.
No, then, what was that? Petrol. What was those things?
Paraffin heaters. You lived with paraffin heaters. So you'd lug these jerry cans, and you'd go to places where they would sell you paraffin by the litre or by the gallon, as it was then. You come home, you had gas fires.
But you also lived shared accommodation.
Yeah,
remember,
and you'd share toilets.
And
the landlord would say, some landlords were quite particular, and you could only shower twice a week. So you just accommodated to that. It was. We thought everybody did that. So it didn't make any difference.
Yeah.
But the minute somebody got a house, people would get so excited. And when you go there and say, "Oh, look, we're now got central heating," that was a real arrival.
And then the phone. Then it's the phone.
And then
the video.
That came later on. The car. Then comes the car. And when that arrived, you knew you were there. And ironically, at that time, you'd have whole families plus the extended family all crammed into a small car, and nobody objected. You'd have 7 or 8 people in the car.
Tell them about that. Your 8 of you, all cousins went in.
We went to a party once. It was organised, and it was myself, my 2 sisters, and about 4 or 5 of my cousins. We all crammed into a Ford Fiesta, and to this day, I cannot work out how we managed it, and we weren't caught by the cops. But everybody did it. Trust me, everybody did it. So it was a way of life. And nowadays, when I talk about that, saying we had paraffin heaters and everything, it just completely goes over your head and Roshni's head, thinking, what's Dad on about now? He's gone back on one of these little jaunts back to memory lane, but that's how it was.
I think that humbles you as well, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Makes you
appreciate
gratitude.
Yeah, it makes you appreciate how things were and where you've come from to where you are now. And we've never forgotten that. I still remember those days. And sometimes I think in rose-tinted glasses, they were wonderful. I'm not quite sure whether they were or not. But it was a way of life. This is a way of life. You've moved on. And as Divya said, you should be grateful all along.
Yeah. And then that brings us to how we met.
Hold on. So what do you think all of that has taught you or developed in you as traits that you've probably carried over towards me and Roshni?
Impact on.
I think the most important thing is to stay grounded. Absolutely
be
grounded.
Humble.
No matter how well off, etc. you are, you must remain grounded.
Yeah. Be humble.
And be humble.
Show gratitude.
Would you say the struggles that they're very different? So for you, Mommy, it was very much, you're being in a camp, you've been stripped away from everything.
Yeah.
And now you've got to rebuild a life. And for Dad, you've gone from in Africa where you can have a pretty good life to being crammed into shared accommodation and only having 2 showers a week. Is that were those 2 scenarios the almost the start of developing this relentless drive that both of you have had over the past 30, 40 years?
Absolutely.
And I believe to be responsible for instilling it into me.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Both of you, both Roshni and you.
I remember when we actually got our first flat. It was a flat, and there was 4 of us living in there. But it was ours. When you closed the door, it was ours. You could have a shower when you wanted to. And the day we moved in, so many Dad's friends and families and came to visit us on the day we moved in. Not the following day, not 2 weeks after, the day we moved in. Hardly unpacked, and we were making the conversation was so animated that the guy downstairs came twice to say, "Can you keep it down? Can you keep it down?" And I must admit, it didn't forge a very good relationship with him. And I think 18 months down the line, he sold up and moved.
Like they do in Pinner.
But importantly, after that, we bought our house. And again, it was a big moment for us. We finally got something of our own. And we always wanted to move. And one of the reasons why we actually moved to Pinner was we needed space. And this came up on the market. It was something which we could afford. And your great-grandmother was with us, and she initially stayed with us. So we wanted to make sure she had a room for herself. You and Roshni shared. And when we moved into this house, it needed everything doing, but we thought to ourselves, no, we've got to live in. Yeah. We cannot afford it. So that's how it is. You persevere. You want to better yourself all the time.
Yeah. So it all comes from there. And were you both in shock, or was it a big surprise coming to England and having a completely different lifestyle to Africa? What was the adjustment period like? Because that to me is quite fascinating in how different. While you're from Africa, the life was very different. And from what you guys say...
Yeah, we had...
it was...
servants and cars and, we had so much going on there. Whereas when we came here, it was just... We had nothing. Yeah, they gave us like £50 per adult or something like that. And we had to buy... Because we didn't have warm clothes bought from there, So we had to buy clothes from charity shops, coats from charity shops, because in the camps they had these secondhand clothes. What about you?
Same here.
So mine was very shocking.
I couldn't cope with the snow or anything like that. And if you left home, you had to make sure you had a jumper on, coat on, warm shoes, which was completely the opposite of living in Africa. You were walking around in shorts and t-shirt or shirt and
flip-flops.
Yeah.
So a lot of the Asian communities were living in luxury there.
Yes, definitely.
So they were coming from luxury in Africa to nothing in England. Very humbling experience, but probably a good time to have that experience when you're at that age, because you learn the other side of life.
At no point did our parents lose hope. It was always, let's go and do this. Let's go and, it was always...
There's always a fight.
Wanting to do, let's just get a house, let's get this. I mean, for my father, it was, first I want to get the business, and then I want to pay the cash for my house, and that was his ultimate aim. Whereas for you, it was different.
For us, it's just get established here again, re-established. It was purely a decision for education, and then things got a bit difficult in Zambia. Then your sisters and then grandma came over, and Mum used to go to work in a factory, and she just adapted. She said, "It's something you've got to do. Life has to move on. You get on with it." But what it instills in you is to work hard. Yeah, and I think that's where both our ethos comes from. That you've got to work hard to progress. Nothing's going to be given to you on a plate.
That's right. And education was important. Yeah. That Dipak always said, education, very important for my children. So, he wants the best. Should we go back to our...
Hold on.
Okay, yeah.
So how did you guys, moving from there, how did you guys meet?
Okay. So it was a complete arranged marriage?
Well, it's not arranged in the strictest sense of the word, in that what happened was my kaka's wife is related to Divya's mum. And because I'd finished my degree, I was doing my training contract, bought the house. And when I qualified, I remember the first thing the whole family, not only just immediate, except, I've got to get married. Now I've got to get married. You've got to get married. So I said, okay, fine. But I'm the first question they asked, have you got anybody? And I said, no, nothing. I'm happy to be introduced. And my kaki said to my mom, I know somebody, they'd be perfect, blah, blah, blah. And
so just for those listening, kaki means aunt.
My uncle's wife, yeah. And I remember the first meeting was arranged and I didn't pitch up, which really annoyed your mum.
How dare you?
But it was a personal reason, which I don't want to go into. And then we went the following week because there were prayers at my uncle's house, and that's where we met. And
within how long?
Well, I'd made up my mind within... But before that, I remember the tradition was that she would bring tea, which she did, and the smiles around, everything. It was pretty much to the book. And then they said, do you want to go upstairs to talk? And I said, no, I want to go out. We'll go for a ride. And they were slightly sort of shuffling, and I said, no. So we got into my car, and it wasn't my car, actually. It was your Bapa's car, because he had a bigger car than I did. Bapa means uncle, sorry. It was my brother's car, and he said, take this car. You need to make a bit of an impression, not your Ford Fiesta. And we went for a drive, and within half an hour, I'd made up my mind, she's the one.
Yeah. 40 minutes for me.
And we were quite, looking back on it, it's quite...
it's a whole different world.
Yeah, because I said to her, I'm going to ask you questions first, and then you can ask me, so we can do everything. Laugh you may, but I'd made up my mind. But I then, on Wednesday, I saw her on a Saturday. The following Wednesday, I phoned and I spoke to my mother-in-law and said, "Can I have permission to speak to Divya, please?" So she she couldn't wait to give the phone over to her. So she gave the phone to her, and I said, "Look, can I come and see you on Saturday? We'll go out for dinner." And we went out for dinner, and I pretty much laid my cards on the table, saying, "This is who I am. This is how we will live."
Your uncle gave you some money to pay for the meal?
The day I was coming up, my brother, your Bapa, said, take some money with you. Make sure you pay. So I drove up, and I was going to get changed at my uncle's house. So as I was leaving, my Kantu Kaka goes to me, "Take some money, make sure you pay." I said, God, I love this. And then I went to pick her up, and she chose a lovely restaurant in the heart of the city centre. And we went there, and she was insisting on paying. I said, no, I'm paying. If you knew what I'd got through this, I'd get into real trouble. And during that dinner, I basically told her lay your cards out. My cards. So I don't want you to find that I marry you and then suddenly say, "No, we can't do this. You better know where I come from and everything."
Okay,
and the most importantly, we had to stay in an extended family, which she accepted.
So it wasn't an arranged marriage per se. It was more an introduction.
Yeah, we could say yes or no.
Yeah. So it's not quite the same as what you said earlier, where you said it's a completely arranged marriage.
But
that's a different
in this
story.
day and age, they'd say it was.
I wouldn't say that at all. I think it's more just an introduction.
Yeah, I suppose so. If you look at it like that.
But it was an introduction, which after 4 hours of knowing each other,
but that's more you.
We decided we were going to get. This is the right one. And I remember the following morning, she said, "Come for breakfast," and you know what your nanima's like, your grandma. Yeah. She laid up a feast for me. And then as I was leaving, she said, "You let us know, won't you?" And which we did. Later on in the afternoon, Mum phoned up and said, it's yes from us. And they said yes. And the following, on Bank Holiday, August 1987, we had what is known as a formalization. The Gujarati expression is "dudh pidu." That means it was formal. So if I went out with her, it would cause an issue. People would know that we on the way to getting married. And this is something I find quite fun. Looking back, it's still funny. This is funny now also. With people who come from Zambia, we were quite open about what we ate, drank and everything. Whereas people who came from East Africa, if they ate meat or had alcohol, they would always do it behind closed doors, i.e. they'd have a sort of meeting where they cook.
The men met.
And the men met and they'd cook. Whereas with the Zambians, we were very open. And when my mother-in-law mentioned to somebody, oh, my daughter's got hitched, and usually they give the usual instruction, where is she from? Where's your son-in-law from? It's of Zambia. And first thing they said, are you sure you've done the right thing?
Shock and horror.
So my mother said, what do you mean by doing the right thing? She said, well, you know, they eat and they drink. So my mother-in-law, being innocent, says, well, we all eat and we drink. She said, no, you mean they eat and they drink. So she got slightly worried and she spoke to Divya's Nanima, who luckily knew my maternal grandmother. And she said, no, you've got nothing to worry about. I know the boy, I can vouch for him. So I was on the cusp of being sort of...
Just because you rejected.
Yeah. And there was a running joke that if you got if you married into the Vaghela family, make sure you get 4 or 5 bottles of whiskies ready, because we drank openly.
Yeah.
So it was one of those traits we had of Zambians. We were very open because we lived in a very mixed community.
Yeah. So fast forward 30 years. Why? What's the secret?
What? Of us?
Yeah. Well, what's the secret to a successful marriage?
We made up our mind on day one.
It's also it's from me. I can say, I know a lot of people who've, they stay together 20, 30 years, but it's very begrudgingly. Oh. It's a false marriage. There's a lot of unhappiness there, but I can see firsthand that that's not the case here. That it's still a very thriving, loving relationship. What's the secret
I think
here?
Because we're yin and yang.
I think it's very rare in this day and age for people to really push forward together. Yeah. So I think we're yin
and yang. So I would want to fly very high, whereas he'd be like the kite on the string.
Come back.
And also, I would work 24 hours if I could, whereas he would say, well, okay, you need a weekend off, or I booked this.
And also a lot about compromises you make. And you've got to understand your partner. And
I think from day one, this was going to be it. It wasn't going to be, if it works out, it works out.
That's one thing. I mean, people have that day one mindset where they're like, if it works out. Hold on. They say, if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, we're still going to stick together. Yeah. And we get a lot of people who settle and stay in these long-term relationships where they don't really, there's no love anymore, but they just stay with it because they have to. So what's the secret to being a thriving relationship?
I think it's because we understand. I think from my perspective, we understand each other and we give each other space. When she wanted to start her own business, I was behind her 100% because, again, as you know, I always talk about independence, not only for each partner should be independent of the other, but should be together at the same time.
It was what Akash said. Do you remember when you said it's good to have a partner when it's the other partner doesn't rely on the other one's career? What was that?
I was saying it's important that each partner is pushing on in their own journey individually, and they'll do that no matter what.
Yes, yeah.
But together, it's even better.
Because when she wanted to pursue a career of her own after you guys were born, I said, go for it. And it wasn't because I didn't even see what it would lead to. It was just that was her bit of independence, and she thrives on it. And she supported my career also. And we've always supported each other's decisions. And I think that helps. She's not dependent on me. I'm not dependent on her in that respect. And we respect each other's decisions.
And
we will also argue them out.
Yeah, we argue them out. Our views can vary, as you know. Yeah. On our dinner table. Happens
fairly
a lot.
significantly. Yeah. So that's the communication, right?
Communication.
It's very strong there.
Yeah. At times, like when we went to Italy recently, Dipak likes to walk about. So I was so fed up with him by the end of the day. And I said to him, just don't talk to me anymore because I just want to get to the hotel now.
What she doesn't tell you is that I was the one who said, actually, I'm a bit tired now. Should we go back to the hotel? And she said, I wish we'd gone back earlier. And as we were approaching the hotel, She said, how long? I said, well, it's about 15 minutes, 10 minutes. By the time we got to the hotel, she had a real go at me. So I said, well, why did you tell me? And her remark was, well, it's my fault now, isn't it? I said, no, you should have said to me you were tired.
Yeah, and then 10 minutes later, we're back to normal.
Yeah. We're just chatting again. So I think if there's something bugging us, we'll discuss.
Open lines of communication.
Yeah. And we'll always approach subjects. So it would be something like, we were talking about under the thumb, the husband's under the thumb. So I said to Akash and Roshni, I said, do you think Dad's under my thumb? Akash, tell him what you said. I like to think so.
Yeah, that's it. You like to think you are. You like to think he is, but really, he's still the boss man.
Yeah.
I think
when I look at his eyes, I know.
You like to claim the day-to-day control, but I think Dad's got the macro control.
Yeah.
Still the man of the house.
That's
very generous of you, but I think a lot of major decisions are made jointly.
It's very mutual. That's what I see. So what do you think is going wrong in so many discontent marriages and relationships, especially people in their 40s, their 50s, where we know so many people that are just living together, just existing together. Really, they're not really in a marriage anymore. While it might be there on paper, what
I don't know. You call it something. You say.
It's very sad, and we talk about it all the time. That I look at it and think, "Wow, is this the reality?"
Yeah.
I don't know what the reason is, but I think
of course, there's no specific reason.
They fall out of love, and then ego takes over, and
I don't even know I don't know what the cause is. But what I can say, what I think might help, or what I think is communicate, talk.
Yeah.
Sometimes you find, because you've sort of drifted apart without realizing, if you just talk, then you'd be surprised how many pent-up feelings will come to the surface. And it's actually, and you realize that sometimes your partner probably wants to talk to you about the same thing, but because that line of communication has probably gone quiet or gone dead, or it's a bit like the computer, when you see the wheel going round and round and round. It's a bit like that. You're waiting for the wheels and can we connect?
But we also connect at the beginning of the day, don't we? Because you work late, so we always have breakfast together now.
Now we always have breakfast together, because by the time when I come home, your mom's tired, so we catch up with each other in the morning.
Yeah.
And when you guys were growing up, we would catch up on the phone during the day. Now I don't.
But then evening, because they used to sleep earlier.
Yeah. And I'd catch up with
and
her
then
at
it
night.
was always at night.
But now I catch up with her in the morning, and then when I come late, and if after our dinner, and if we don't speak much, it doesn't really matter, because we'll catch up the following day. But ironically, I also catch up with you guys when I come home. Roshni will tell me about her day. You'll tell me how your day went. If it's something really exciting, you'll phone me or you'll text me. So that line
touch base.
That line of communication is always there. So if that proverbial wheel's just going around, give it a boost.
So is that the same? So the same advice you give for couples, you'd also give that to parents who, along every stage of the journey, because I think one of the best things that we have is that open line of communication. That a lot of people always wonder why I'm so open with you, and I think that's very healthy to have. Where did that come from? Because not many of my friends are in the same boat. Some of them are similar, but a lot of them don't have that where they're hiding things or they're keeping things. What's happened?
Mine started because I've done child development. So in those days, child development, I always say to my parents at the nursery that, even if your child doesn't talk, you must say, how was your day? And if your child just shrugs his shoulders or whatever, you should say, I tell you what, I'm going to talk about my day. So they know that, it's good to talk about. And then your dad will probably say, you know what happened? I had this and this going on. The train journey was bad and all this.
Oh, yes.
Even if it's menial. So that's how you started always giving me feedback. And all the feedback always happens. The journey from school pickup to home, that's the best time you can catch your child. So that's why I always say you must pick up your own child, because that's.
And I think if you fast forward that now, if you're still living with your parents, your son's grown up, daughter's grown up, I think the best line of communication is when they come home and they work long hours is, how was your day? Or,
it's a simple rapport building question.
And if they shrug you off, you just say, well,
maybe not.
I know how you feel. My day was pretty awful. Or, by the way, I met such and such, and hopefully that will slowly open up the line of communication.
So along the whole child development, where whether it's a 2-year-old, whether a lot of our listeners are parents, they might have
young parents,
young parents, but some of them might be slightly older. But let's say the majority are potentially they have kids between the ages of like 1 and 2 and maybe 10 and 12. So in that primary school, nursery learn. What tips would you give them to really forge that relationship? Because I think it all starts at the beginning of their life, right? You can, if you neglect that early bit, I'm assuming, I don't know, because I've not been a parent yet, but I'm assuming the teenage years are harder.
That's right.
From what you've seen in child development.
Yeah, we've always, because I'm quite strong in child development. So every stage. And
just for background, it's because you're trained in childcare and you've been in nurseries for over 20 years. So you've seen this firsthand in thousands of parents. So what child development, we decided between us, because Dipak was always away from his parents, that no matter what, one of us is going to raise our own children. So, because I was the one raising Akash and Roshni. But what we find is that line of communication, every milestone the child was going through, I read up on it and I thought, right, this is going to come next. And I used to say to Dipak, this is coming next. Even to, remember when Roshni had her 18th once at home. And she goes, Dad, there's going to be boys in the house as well. And then Dipak and I sat in the kitchen until Akash came on and goes, you two, can you please go upstairs now and leave Roshni alone? Because we were just gauging what was happening. Yeah. But every milestone, we sort of said, all right, Dipak, I think this is going to come next. This is going to come next.
And I think...
And we just prepared ourselves.
Yeah, I also remember when you started at QE Boys, and I remember there was an incident when one of the child didn't come home. And the police rang. And we didn't sleep the whole night. And the first thing your mum did was she rang the parent up at about 6 in the morning and she said, actually, he's come home. And that's it. But I remember that day I went to work. I came home that night. I sat both of you down. I said, there's no such thing.
Bad results.
There's no such thing as a problem which we cannot solve.
Yeah.
Anything that could, but please, for God's sake, don't do anything like this. Don't do anything like this because you don't know what you put parents through. And we've always reiterated there's nothing which we
can't
as a family or as a group we cannot solve or find a solution to, because there's always a solution. It may not be the best one, but there's always a solution that you can find.
And that's how we make all our decisions. Yeah. We always say, okay, this is going to be a dining table conversation, because when we're unsure of things...
And we all start off.
We'll all start
and
off.
when that conversation starts, we're all on our defensive, hands folded. And then slowly as the conversation progresses, the hands open up. And actually, there's this, and this. And then one of us will always go off on a tangent.
Yes.
And we have to be brought back and say, no, this is the number.
So it can get really heated. And then it calms down again, doesn't it?
We talk about this dining table, but that's something which we instituted on your recommendation about just over 10 years ago, that we must at least have one meal a week where all of us sit at the dining table and eat together. And
do you remember that, Akash?
And all phones, everything put away. And we do that on a Sunday.
But phones we never use anyway.
Yeah. But that's the one golden rule we've put in and we've implemented.
And mention what Akash said, that Dad doesn't cook all week, so he can cook on a Sunday.
I cook on a Sunday.
So that...
Yeah. So, Monday, luckily nobody has food poisoning, which is the best one.
Talk about his pride on that.
So the underlying message I'm picking up from both relationships between you, but also between children, is communication.
Communication,
and building that. If you're not getting anything from the other person, is giving them something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they might be holding back. They might be holding back, and then
they want to know your guard is down.
Yeah.
And they think actually.
And we always said that you can talk about everything to us, and sometimes I have to hold Dipak's hand.
It is a question of extending your hand.
Listen.
They might hit back at go away, or they might actually extend a hand. And I can give you another example. 12 years ago, when there was sort of not friction or anything like that. There was a family occasion coming up, and we were very unsure whether we should go or not. And your mum said, "Look, let's just go. It's family. We must go." And it was the best thing we did.
We extended our hand.
It opened up everything, and it strengthened the bond. It strengthened the bond.
So it's not just the immediate family. You can do it extended family as well.
You can do it to everybody.
Yeah. I think that segues really nicely into one of the questions and one of the topics that I know a lot of people are interested in hearing about, and that's the career change shift that I had, and essentially what the events were around it, the communication we had, and the way the conversation went down. Let's go through that. It's obviously the elephant in the room that a lot of people want to know about.
Yes.
This is. What was your reaction, and how did it all unfold? Where I decided to switch from following your footsteps in law and going into what was at the time a relatively unknown field in our community of health and fitness.
Yeah, it wasn't unknown just to the community; it was unknown to us.
Yeah. I think this is the elephant in the room, and this is the one question I was asked a lot when I came to the RNT meetup. And essentially, I'm a solicitor, a lawyer, and I always thought Akash would join following my footsteps.
No, but you always said as well, didn't you?
Yeah.
He goes, okay, I'll do law.
And yes, he did. But he sort of did a work experience in India, which he loved. Did work experience in Germany, he loved. He came to my office for a week. He sort of said, "Yeah, it was fine."
No, that was the deal breaker.
But I didn't pick up the signs. But I remember when it came to 2010, just before you go into university, and you hadn't done your UCAS form. And I said to you a couple of times, you need to get that UCAS form in because you're fast coming up to this. And I remember one Tuesday night coming home.
Remember I said to you, oh, Akash has got something to discuss, because he told me before that, would Dad mind if I changed my degree? And I said, no, I don't think so. What is it? And he said it's sports science. I said, because I always saw those gym, when we go to the gym, those fitness. I said, is it one of those who walk around? I said, will it pay your bills?
It pretty much was.
I said, will it pay your bills? Because I was a bit concerned about that. And he goes, yes, Mum. Anyway, so now you take it. And then he came in the evening.
And I used to come, at that time, I used to come home between 7:30 and 8. And my habit was I walk in, wash my hands, sit down to have my dinner. And 9 out of 10, it's usually Roshni who comes and says, Dad, how was your day? Has a quick chat with me, and then leads me to it. But this time, it wasn't Roshni who walked in. You walked in, pretty sheepish, head down, and said, Dad, can I talk to you, please? And I said, yeah, what's the matter? Everything okay? He said, yes. He said, do you mind if I don't do law? I said, no. What would you like to do? And you said sports science. And I think my reaction was pretty much like your mum's. And I said, but I kept calm. I said, yeah, so I know nothing about sports science. Have you done, and at that point your face lit up. He said, I've done all the research. These are the top 5 universities. This is the one I'm going to apply for. I said, well, if you've done what you want to do, then go for it. And I remember you walked away with a spring in your step. And so 2 minutes later, your mum walked in and said, you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm fine. But what's sports science when it's at home? I knew absolutely nothing about it, and didn't know until we actually went to the first open day at Birmingham University, when the prospective students were all taken away to be shown the campus, and us, the parents, were wheeled into the one of the lecture halls where I think the head of your course spent the next hour and a half explaining what sports science was. And right at the end of that session, I turned around to your mum and said, yep, I'm happy. It's a degree in science. And you know, us Asians, as long as there's science involved, we're happy people. It was, I mean, to be honest with you, it was something which we were not familiar with. And when I was growing up in the Asian community, there were pretty much just four or five professions which were sort of accountants, doctors, lawyers, engineers and dentists. And then anything after that was, Vandhone, yeah, he or she's doing the right thing. And yours was a complete curveball which went in a direction which none of us knew about. And I was initially hesitant, but when you went to Freshers, when we took you to university and then you rang us on the second day of the Freshers Week and you said, the course covers everything I want to do. I've got all my books ready. I can't wait to start. And I remember thinking to myself, well, he's done the right thing. So yeah, initial hesitations were there.
But glad you took that decision instead of law. Otherwise,
it was the best decision of my life.
Yes, you wouldn't have.
We wouldn't be able to do this on a Friday morning. I'd be at the office,
especially at the crack of dawn, being told to do a podcast. A bit of a jolt to the system.
Yeah, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. Was the one decision that changed everything that came after, essentially. And what came after was probably something you never thought would happen. So, you got the bodybuilding, my ventures into bodybuilding and everything that took you guys down and exposed you to, because that's a whole different world and a different animal.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose we should have seen, again, looking back on it, we should have seen that you were going to do something like this, in that you became quite particular about what you ate and everything, so much so that you used to carry your Tupperware box pretty much everywhere. And I think you've got shares in the Tupperware company, because there was one evening we went to the theatre and you hadn't eaten and it was your meal time, and you opened you opened it up and you had tuna and you had salmon. You started eating and there was a slight whiff of the food coming through. And there were two ladies in front who sort of looked around and almost tut-tutted.
No, but what did Akash say?
No, let me finish. And I said to Akash, why don't you go outside and go to the auditorium and say, no, they got to accept me for what I am. I'm going to continue. And you continued eating, completely oblivious to what was happening. And then he said,
look at their bodies. I think they heard that.
I'm surprised the manager didn't come and ask us to leave. But
and also when we had a wedding at our house with one of the Dipak's cousins, but he didn't touch any food.
No, he had
wedding
just
food.
His own.
You just had your own.
And my aunt, who's my cousin's mother, said to me, "Does he not like my food?" I said, "No, he loves your food, but he's doing this for himself. So don't take any offense.
Yeah,
let him just do." And we had the whole wedding celebrations for the whole week, and we were all eating all this
stuffing
really
our faces,
lovely food. Well, I call it lovely food, may not be lovely food. Really good, Indian food. And there's you in your Tupperware with your rice, chicken. Pretty much the foundation of what you eat now, which was the foundation. You were doing that, so it shouldn't have come as a surprise. But when you went through the process, it was a bit of a shock to our system.
But we thought it was passing by, like a phase in your life. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember I used to have the home weights when I was 16.
Yeah.
I was training.
Remember we went to Argos.
I got the home weights from Argos, and I was obsessed. I was training all the time. Had the chin-up bar in the room.
Yeah.
I was training all the time, and I spent all my spare time reading about fitness.
And we
training.
were your first client.
You were our first.
And you were actually
some of my first guinea pigs.
You were also training when you went to India for your work experience, because you were staying with our friends. And
he had that bike, didn't he, with clothes on.
And his mum used to say, he wakes up and he does exercise and all that. It's a bit of a shock to their system also. So it was all there.
The signs were there. And I was very extreme with my eating. I look back and I think I was probably a bit too over the top.
Buffering,
I was just over the top with, the Tupperwares at every occasion. I was completely obsessed. And when I look back and think, well, I probably should have eased off. I think that was like almost planting the seeds for what's come later. And I learned a lot from that experience, which now helps me in my coaching now, because I can help people actually go to weddings and be more normal rather than upsetting everyone around them. But
interestingly, when we used to go to family dues, and you'd come along with your Tupperware, and it was a running joke with my people in my age group. And said, "Why is he not eating?" I said, "Well, there's this joke. There's people who say, he doesn't eat food from the outside," and they'd laugh. And he said, "But is he okay about it?" I said, "Well, he's fine. He's not complaining. Look, he's got his Tupperware box. He's sitting there quietly eating it. You join the dinner table. You sit with everybody, all your cousins and everybody, but you just eat your own food."
And everybody just accepted you for that.
Yeah. I think
now it's different.
Well, I think I look back and I think there's something to be said for just standing for what you want to do.
Yeah.
I think that's the underlying message there. And while the action is probably extreme, I think it's more a case of, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it.
Yeah. But that's always been that.
That always comes from when you're following your own path. Mm. When you go against the grain, you always get that. And one thing which we've always done is we've always done things our way, whether we never followed.
Listen to everybody, but the ultimate decision's ours. We never follow.
We've never kept up with the Patels or the Shahs or the
FOMOs,
the Joneses or anything like that, because we just live within our means and we followed our path that way.
Yeah,
and I think both you and Roshni do the same thing. You will solicit advice, but you ultimately will make your own decision.
Where's that come from?
That's just us.
That's just us. I think.
But there's always a reason why. What's the reason?
I think living within my means it comes from my parents.
No, but more the following your own path. I think that's something a lot of people struggle with. A lot of people struggle with doing what they want to do, and they conform.
I think it probably
comes communication.
Yeah, and also I think it comes deep down. I think it comes from our parents, because my father sort of always believed you do what you think is right.
As long as you have education.
Yeah. And he's right. And one thing about my dad was he always spoke his mind. Even if it was not the right thing to say, he always spoke his mind. And 9 out of 10, he was proven right in the long run, not straight away. And he always did what he thought was the right thing. It may not have been the case. A lot of times he was actually in the wrong, but he believed in that. And I think, looking back on it, I think that's ingrained in me. And I think with your mum was also very much her father, his parents died at a very young age. He actually brought up he and your grandma brought up his siblings, and he did what he felt was the right thing. Mm. He didn't know whether there was an acceptable thing within the sort of concept of our society, but he did what was the right thing. And he had your grandma's support. She stood by him. And they raised his siblings, but they followed what they thought was right. And I think that's what we do. And
it's always the truth, isn't it? We believe in the truth.
Yeah, we believe in what we can. Yeah, we think as far
the right path, the truth. Yeah.
I have had occasions when I'm quite out. I tend to speak my mind, and I've been told time and time again by your mum, even by you guys, put a zip on it. And I now sort of rein myself back, but I tend to say things as I see them, and that ultimately may not be the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But then Akash is black and white as well.
Yeah, you're very much black and white. You can't see the shades of grey. I think you are now beginning to see some of them, but you're pretty black and white.
Yeah.
And and I remember there was an incident about 15 years ago, and you were in a car with some family, and you were adamant what you said was the correct, and looking back, you were in the right. And I remember the mother turning as well. You would say that you're a lawyer's son, and you sort of stood your ground and said, "No, it's nothing to do with my father being a lawyer. It's the truth." And you came back, and there was sort of a couple of weeks of tension on that, but you were proven to be on the right track, and it's just one of those things. You have to live with that. When you're in the right, when you follow a path which nobody else follows, or is not what others perceive is not the right path, you're always going to get criticism. You're always going to get people holding you back. And this is something I think you will find that your fellow RNT people who are on that journey, on that 12-week journey, will find that they will
not 12-week journey,
whichever journey they're on. Yeah.
They will find a lot of opposition, criticism, and it's the criticism or the opposition comes out of lack of understanding, and the fact that you don't fit into this mold. Yeah. And there's one of your podcasts, and I remember this so well because he hit the button. He said, "I went to this choral,
baby shower.
Yeah.
Baby shower. They call it a baby shower, and that whole day people picked on him, saying, you picked on him, that you're too thin, and not only on him, on his poor wife, saying you're not feeding your husband. It's always the wife's fault. If the husband goes to lose his weight, Bairi dhyan nathi rakhti. Our wife's not looking after her. The fact that he might have made his own choice is irrelevant. And that's something you get a lot. And I've seen that pattern emerges in a lot of the podcasts RNT, I've seen, that it's a journey they're making and people around them don't understand or cannot comprehend what you're doing. And the best form, and when they can't comprehend, the best thing is they attack you without realizing it. Yeah. That's my take on it.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so RNTers, keep on going.
Did you deal with social stigmas when I chose my specific career path or when I was doing bodybuilding? Did you get comments? Did you get criticism?
I think comments were, as I said, people couldn't understand what you were doing. And when we stepped in and said, well, actually, he's doing what he wants to do. Let him do what he wants to do. And the underlying message that came along was, don't worry, he loses interest.
Yeah.
And
phase. I used to do this.
Yeah, I used to do that. Now he's back to, and I think that was the idea. They would sort of gently pat you on the back, feeling sorry for you, and deep down thinking, oh,
here we go.
They've got a classic namuna here. He's going to be a real problem kid for them.
But when he won his first competition.
But I think the recognition was when you sort of stood your ground and continued doing what you wanted to do, and you won that first competition, I think suddenly people realized and took up and said, actually, this is for keeps. We knew it was for keeps from 2008, 2009, but the wider people realized, no, he's not only talking the talk or walking the walk or whatever the expression is, but he's actually doing what he believes in. And as you know, I remember when people say, well, he's not eating the right thing. Now the very people say, actually, no, I wish I was doing the same thing. And they start putting that
They all ask for advice now. It's that whole thing where first they laugh at you, they mock you, and they come asking for advice, and they want to do the same.
And then they'll say...
The amount of people in the family and a wider circle that we know
and then they'll say... I hope Akash is not looking what I'm eating.
Yeah, it's always the same old.
But that... What I find is, always rubbing off things. I've lost thread now. Sorry. Go on. Carry on.
Let's talk about so you mentioned the bodybuilding competitions and you mentioned, let's talk about that. How did it feel watching me compete in bodybuilding and really going to the extreme with my physique and the dieting and the whole process of it? Right.
So you always wanted to achieve best, even when you were growing up. So, be it sports day, you wanted to be either first always, but, you came first, second, third. When you were having piano exams, you always, won in the competition. What else?
You gave your 100%.
What about that solo number you did?
Yeah, there was one school play you did the solo number, which we weren't expecting. But I think you gave your 100%.
Yeah, so you always did your 100% in everything.
And when you were doing your first competition in 2014, I remember, and that was a tough time for us also, because we didn't know, we couldn't understand the whole concept. It was completely alien to us. And when we came, we decided we'd come with you, and we joined all your group of friends, and we came with you. And I remember sitting in the auditorium, and the whole thing was unfolding before us, and it was taking place, and I couldn't understand anything. But thank God we had Sham sitting in the row in front of us, because he's explained to us, Uncle, don't worry, that means if he's coming in the center, he's doing well, he's doing the
he explained. And
when you won the competition, you could have knocked me with a feather, because I couldn't believe it. And I thought, blimey, it's all come round
together,
it's come together. But it was a tough call. I think it was tough for all of us. It was tough for you, because it was the first time you were doing it, and you were sort of eating food, and you were eating less, and you were doing this. You were quite grumpy because your sugar levels were down. and it was difficult because we couldn't understand. And I remember a number of times we said to you, no, can you just stop this? Or no? And you get even more angry with us because we didn't understand.
We wanted him to give up, didn't we? Like 2 weeks before the competition, we said, no, this is enough now.
And then on the day of the competition, I remember after the first round and everything, you were invited to come and compete in the seniors round, and we all went to have lunch at Nando's, my first time in Nando's, I think, first or second time in Nando's, and you actually ate properly. And I thought, thank God he's doing something properly now. And you were drinking Coke. I couldn't believe it until you explained why you were drinking Coke. And I thought, it's all to do with the competition.
And then what about in 2017 then? Because that was probably arguably 10 times worse.
Yes, exactly. Roshni's graduation pictures.
Yeah, as in, I went to a completely different level. Like I took it to another level.
Yeah, that was even worse, wasn't it? It was heartbreaking for us.
It was heartbreaking, but at the same time, because we knew what you were doing the first time around. But I remember when you were doing the competition in 2017, two things stand out. The first was one day you called me, said, "Can you come to the gym and take some photographs?" And I was taking photographs. You were in your really skimpy shorts. And the manager came and said, "Akash, can you go to another room because there's been a complaint about you?" And I said, I can understand somebody complaining. So I said to the manager, "Who complained?" He said, "Some woman complained." I said, "Why would a woman complain? She got a nice, perfect body in front of her." And then we went to the cinema. I went to the last of the Planet of the Apes movies because we both watched the first two. And you kept on dropping off. So you dropped off the first time, I woke you up. You dropped off the second time, I woke you up. The third time you dropped off, I just let you sleep because you were so tired. And your sugar levels were down, everything. And when the movie finished, you go, "Why didn't you wake me up? You better go at me." And I thought, I should wake him up. So it was tough. But in the sense, we knew what we were expecting. But again, you took us to another level.
Yes.
So, and when you were doing it this year for just part of your shoot, I was so excited when you said, "Oh, we're going to do a shoot with a really specialist photographer." I said, "Oh, that'd be some really good, great photographs." So when you said, "No, it's been cancelled, I'm not doing it now."
Where is that?
In Los Angeles. Oh. My heart sank to a certain extent. He's worked this hard. He's not going to do the shoot. But
it wasn't about that for me this time.
No, it wasn't. But
it wasn't about that.
I thought it was quite.
As in, I got I got the photo shoot with Sham, and that was the main, that was
very
main
nice
thing.
photos.
And I got really good photos from there. And the LA thing was. Yeah, it was a shame, but it wasn't the end of the world for me. I actually wasn't even bothered by that. I mean, for me, the journey this time was completely different. But that I'll cover on a different podcast. But you mentioned about going to the extreme, and it's not just been in bodybuilding. I've done that. I've done that in business as well. Probably to I would say potentially a greater level, just because of the intensity and the frequency of it. How has it been since I've set up RNT? What has it been like?
When you first,
how have I been since I've set up RNT?
When you first, well, you always knew that you were. Well, I always told you that own your own business, weren't you? Because I knew you could cope with it. So when you first started up, you said, "I want to go from this A to B," and you achieved it in a very short space of time.
Yeah.
And then C to D. And then the workload started, and you were working something like 10 hours, 11 hours, toggled. So
that's like
about
16,
17
That's
17
when we got
hours.
Worried.
Well, yeah, we used to say, "Oh, don't you want to go sleep?"
It was like 5:30 in the morning till 10 p.m. at night.
Yeah, and he used to be just on the computer. And then one day, his body said, "That's enough now."
Just before we went to India, actually.
And he said, "That's enough." So that's when.
Why don't you talk about that experience then?
Oh my
I think
goodness.
It's quite a, before you wanted to keep it private, but I think it's a very important message for people to understand, and it'd be interesting to hear your perspective, because I know a lot of people have reached out from when I spoke about it, and that they may have gone through the same, or they struggle with a similar sort of issue. What has it been like from your perspective?
Well, when you had that incident, I could relate to that because I know I do a lot of burnouts like that, but then I sit down and think about it and move on. But I could relate to that, and I spoke to you about that. I've had a few of these as well,
but not to the extent that you had turned into. But
it was that morning when we, I always hear the scales moving. And then for some reason, I don't know what it was, I was in the kitchen, and this was 4:30 in the morning or something.
4:35, yeah.
And for some reason, I heard a noise, and I thought, "Oh, let me go." And I thought it was Mum collapsing or something. I never thought it would be Akash. So I said, "Oh, Mum, what's happened, Mum?" And then he comes out of the bathroom and he was just going towards the staircase. Yeah, even he's disoriented. And I said, don't come this way, go the other way, because I thought he's going to fall on me and we're both going to go down the stairs. So anyway, I caught him on the floor and I just shouted, Dipak, I said, just come. And everybody woke up and Roshni rang the ambulance. And
It was probably the scariest time.
Yeah, we were just so scared. What can we do?
And you were completely disorientated, and you kept on mumbling, and we kept on talking to you.
And I said, "Don't fall asleep! Don't fall asleep!"
And then the ambulance came and
they wanted to check you
go
out.
through everything. They said to check you out, and then your first reaction when you got to A&E was, "Oh God, I'm waiting here. There's no internet connection. I can't." And I said, "Just shut up. Just take it easy. Don't worry about it." And I remember after that,
and they were saying you didn't drink enough water. You didn't have enough water in you, but you could have forgotten.
I'm not sure. I don't think it's that. What I've realised now is when I'm close to the red line, my body almost naturally dehydrates itself. Yeah. So whenever I'm close to this, I have a very high need for water.
Yeah.
So this is the new mechanisms I've learned.
It could be, yeah.
So I don't think it was the lack of water. I think it was my body was just dehydrated from the stress.
Yeah. And the nurses wouldn't let him go, and he was saying, no, there's no internet here. And
I managed to get it
batteries. My computer.
Yeah, you phoned me to tell me your battery had gone down at work.
I said,
what would you like me to do about it? I'm at work. I don't have access to a computer. What would you like me to do about it?
He was getting annoyed at all the meetings he had to not cancel. And I said, Akash, just bear with.
And I think when you came back and everything, and then we went to India for a week, I was on your case saying, make sure you drink water, make sure you drink water. So much so you got fed up with me saying that to us. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really the water.
So you know what it is.
And when you went to Thailand and then Cambodia and everything, I said, make sure you drink plenty of water. and I just text you pretty much every day, just reminding you.
But now we remind him if he works too much.
You're talking about the water.
Yeah, but
we both know it's not the water.
Yeah.
It's the wider
but now
thing.
we just remind
the water was just the symptom that my body brought in, because you know how much water I drink. I drink like 4 litres a day.
But I think now you know what's the triggers.
Yeah.
You know when to stop. But sometimes you do go overboard, and we say to you that,
remind you.
Do you want to go sleep now?
Yeah.
Switch off.
So let's obviously this is all related to RNT. How has RNT impacted you?
Well,
we didn't really know about macros, did we?
No, I think RNT. we've seen
protein,
but I think it's been within us ever since you started your.
I think health has always been with us. We always said that we're not going to put on weight when we get old, and
we'll try not to anyway. Yeah, but I think it's been with us in the background, in that because we were seeing you, observing your eating habits and everything, and. What you used to do when we used to go to the gym, you used to devise programs for us, both of us, and you used to change it every 6 weeks for us.
And we saw results, didn't we?
Yeah.
And we were really happy.
and I think that's been there from day one. What we've seen more now is we're more aware of other aspects. Mum says macros and everything.
Macros, protein.
Yeah, all that, which we didn't fully.
We didn't know.
When you explained it to us, it didn't quite register, but now we see it. Discussed, talked about when you're on the phone to clients. We hear you talk about it. It's sort of
because we had a perspective.
Part of it's in our background now.
And I think we had the perspective about Indian protein. Like I think one of your RNT podcast, Archana, she mentioned it, that dal. She thought everybody said dal had a lot of protein, where it's a misconception.
It's got more carbs than
yeah.
So things like that. We've
I even know, even to this day, when sometimes when I talk to, your Masiba, my aunt, and we talk about protein, she goes, "Dharma, lot of protein." I said, "Masi, no, it's a misconception. It's got a lot of carbs." But it's one of those things.
Yeah.
Even your my grandmother used to say, "That is very good for you."
Yeah. So we always thought that. But.
And what about your favorite element of what's been built at RNT so far?
Community we like, don't we?
I think
we love the community.
I think you not only do you take on a journey you don't not only take your clients onto a journey, but it's a continuing journey, and that I see in your RNT community. It is a genuine community, and dare I say it's pretty much like the community we had in Livingston, It was a mixed community, and everybody helped each other. And I find that in RNT time and time again. I've had somebody posted last week about how do I film myself doing my exercise, and somebody said, well, I put mine against this, or somebody said, why did you buy this from Amazon?
Good ideas.
That is priceless. And I think this whole concept of community you created actually goes back to your school days, especially your QE days, because you have this core of friends who are, not only are you competitive, but it's healthy competition in that you used to egg each other on, you used to encourage each other.
They're all done well.
Yeah, you've all done well, and you've always used to always encourage each other. And if somebody was sort of falling by the wayside or going through difficulty, you'd all sort of prop him up, help him out. Yeah. And that's exactly being reflected in what the RNT family. Yeah. It's there time and time again. You never let somebody... I've never seen somebody say, oh, I know something special, I'm not going to share it with you. The minute somebody finds something which is of use of the wider community, it's there on the family page. By the way, I did this. Try this out, guys. And that's priceless. And the other thing
sometimes when we're walking and some nice young-looking man or woman smiles at us and we think, it's probably an RNT person.
The other thing you do, which I really admire, which I'd like, is that you share knowledge,
education and knowledge. Yeah.
And I remember you saying to me, "I'm not gonna lock that education up.
You're not gonna put a price on it as well.
Everyone should benefit from whatever I've learned. I want the whole community to know." And when you go to the RNT website, the education page, there's tons of articles which anyone can access.
And recipes.
Yeah, recipes.
There's like 250 articles, 100 podcasts.
Yeah.
That's very good. I think it's very good that you don't charge people to use those.
The knowledge, you're sharing knowledge, which is very good.
Yeah.
Amazing. I had no idea about the potential community aspect coming from my core group of friends.
Yeah.
No.
Because we're still
You're still
friends.
close.
We still go on holiday together. They're still my best friends.
We still have family dinners.
With them.
But you see, within that, you discuss ideas. You bounce each other off. You encourage each other, and that.
Well, they'd be my biggest support. I mean, Bilal was the one who opened my eyes to the idea of doing fitness.
Yeah.
He was the one that said to me, Akash, why are you faffing around with law? It's not, you don't enjoy this.
Yes.
Why don't you follow what you actually enjoy? And he was the one that inspired me to do so. He was also the person that took me to the gym. And then along the way, the amount of that core group have been my biggest support, which is why I mentioned them at the RNT 2-year party, because through all the ups and downs of RNT and just generally in my life, they've always been there.
And off that group, it's Bilal and you who followed.
Yeah, it's Bilal
gone off the curve.
Yeah, and Bilal, but he's right in that Bilal has been the one who's also gone down a completely untraditional route,
career path,
and he's now really reaping the benefits, and he's creating a lot of social impact out there, which I look at and think, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
and it's very inspirational to see that.
Yeah. And you've all done well. You've all professionals,
and I think you support each other, which is amazing, and.
So that's an interesting link. I didn't see that link, which is.
I always saw the RNT community as an extension of what you'd built up with your core friends, because you've got that core RNT community, the diehards.
Yeah.
There are some people who are regular contributors to the RNT community, and that's
What is how could I? And shifting more like away from RNT, but more onto me here. What would you say is an area I can improve in specifically?
See more grey.
You're very black and white.
Yeah. See more grey.
You'll say to whatever, if somebody's fat, you'll say you need to lose weight.
Forget anybody.
I'm just saying.
Just take my example.
Okay.
I remember recently said to you, oh, the doctor said I might have the onset of arthritis in my knee. So you said, lose some weight, Dad. So I said, how much? Oh, you're too fat. You need to lose at least another 5 kilos.
I wasn't that blunt.
No, you were. And I said, yeah, okay, I'll take it on board. And I've sort of made progress on that.
But I think you're black and white with us, but you're very empathetic to your clients.
Yeah.
Yes, that's interesting, because when a client contacts you and
confides in you,
and they're going through difficulty, either personally, completely unrelated to their program, you're very understanding. You're empathetic. You sort of say, "Well, do this. Let's follow this. Let's see it through." And there's one podcast you did, and that difference between that telephone call and everything. And I read that, and I thought, I had goosebumps, and I thought, I didn't realize the impact you're making in their lives.
People's lives. Yeah. So yeah,
that is interesting. Like, and I've noticed that as well. I'm very black and white with, I think the people I'm in contact with most regularly, like you guys.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm very black and white.
Yeah.
But with clients that have this very, very empathetic side.
Yeah. So
perhaps you can be a bit empathetic to your parents.
yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that is though. That's interesting.
I think it's because you have you know that whatever you say to us, we will take it on board, or we will not. And I mean, sometimes I get cross with you, and I said, well,
we'll fight it out.
Yeah, but I think it's because you know that you can say it and not worry about it. And I think that's
it might be that.
And we'll always fight it out, won't we? We'll always have a discussion on this.
Yeah.
Do you think starting RNT has changed me in any way? Positively or negatively?
You've always been focused. I remember when you were saying in university, you said, "Dad, I want a first," and remember you were sort of planning how you should study and all that.
And then you were saying, "This is what I need to focus on. I need to work hard on these topics to make sure I get to that thing."
Yeah.
And I remember the day you phoned me up, and I said, "So, what's the result?" And he said, "Well, what do you think, Dad?"
Yeah, it was very. It's like once you won a tennis match in your primary school. And then you had this trophy in your bag. And then when I opened your bag, you had a trophy. And I said, "Akash, why couldn't you have told me this before? I would have showed it off to all the mums."
Yeah.
My son won this. But
I think you're very focused and determined that if when you make up your mind you want to do something.
That's interesting about the trophy thing, because that's something I'm very much like now, in that if anything that happens that's an accomplishment, I don't really get a sense of excitement. Is very much like, okay, I've done that. Tick the box.
You've never,
move on. Like we were talking about the other day about the book, and you were like, "Oh yeah, just I know you want to just tick it off," and I said, "No, I don't want to just tick this off, because I actually want to enjoy this for once.
Yeah,
like I want to actually try and I want to now try and accomplish things and enjoy them rather than just tick them off, because that's my biggest problem." And
you'd always been like that.
With all competition, when you won a few piano competitions, you'd come home, and we would see you would come home and you wouldn't even show your grandma, "Oh, by the way, I've won. I've won."
What do you think?
You would just leave it, and we'd have to say to your grandma, "He's won."
Yeah.
But what do you think that comes from, or why?
That's me as well.
Probably us. We don't.
You celebrate the small wins.
I'm like that. No, I don't.
This is something I'm discussing. Like I'm internally discussing myself a lot. Why don't I celebrate the small wins? Why can't I celebrate the small wins?
Yeah.
Because it kind of makes everything an anticlimax. You work so hard,
and then it's
you work so hard for something, and it's like, oh, okay. Like the photo shoot recently, I came and woke up the day. I wasn't really fussed about it. You know what I'm saying? It was just like a normal day for me. It was just an anticlimax.
Yeah.
I think it's probably,
but for a lot of people, it's a massive thing. Whatever they accomplish,
and which is a good thing.
I think it's a good thing. I wish I could be more like that.
I'm not like that as well.
I'm guessing it's come from you guys.
Yeah.
Neither am I. It's not a big deal.
We never show off as well, don't we?
We don't make a big deal.
But I don't even think it's that, because you don't need to show off to celebrate something.
No.
I think when we do celebrate, we sort of keep it within ourselves. It's
within us. Yeah, within the family unit.
I don't think you could make a big song.
But even within you, like I know, for example, Mum will accomplish something in business, and it will just be very much a case of, all right, well, what's next?
What's next? Yeah,
it's never a case. It's never a case. Even there's no celebration, even internally.
Now you know where you get it from.
Well, yeah, I do. But it'd be interesting to know where she gets it from, because it's obviously been passed down.
My dad was like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Whenever we made sales, I remember in those days it was always notes and coins. And my sister and I used to count the money, and we used to say, "Oh, guess how much today?" And he used to say, "Oh," it was a real and we used to think, "Wow, we've done really well all day and worked hard." But for him, it was, "Oh, I hope next time it's more."
Yeah, it's damn.
So that's me. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's finish on a more positive note.
Yes.
What is your proudest moment of RNT?
RNT.
Yeah, just so people who are listening can relate to, and then we can go into maybe overall.
I think you setting it up and the way you've developed it and how it's
any
grown.
particular moment, like one that's very broad.
I can give you one. The most recent one was the meet.
Yeah, the party.
Meet and greet was very good. Yeah,
and I thought
party. Yeah,
I was there, and I thought there's so many people there, and I thought, wow, that's my son's business. And funny enough, and then I kept on being, and the other reason why I was such a proud moment was everyone was offering me to buy me drinks, and I had to turn them down because I was driving at the other end. But it was a very proud moment for us. For me, that was a very proud moment.
For me, it was when he graduated. The day he graduated, and I had tears in my eyes, and he was saying, "Mum, why are you crying?" And I said, we've taken you up to here. Now I can clip your wings and you can fly. So the world is his oyster. And then he set up his own, when he was completely on his own. That's when I had tears again. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And that's when...
that's about a year ago.
Yeah, and he said, I said, right, this is it. And he just went from A to B, zoomed. So, yeah, those two are my proudest moments.
Still work silly hours. Yeah. More
delegating.
Yeah, we're on a mission, so can't ease off here. Any parting words you'd like to tell the listeners?
I think, from my perspective,
keep on the community, isn't it? Like spirit is
keep the community spirit going, thriving. And if your child is going to follow a path which is off the curve or something which you've not, just support them. And
if they're passionate enough, they'll do
support them. I guarantee you, they'll not only you, but you'll all reap the rewards, because they'll be forever grateful that my folks stood behind me and encouraged me and helped me get to where I want to. And that's priceless.
Yeah,
that's very important.
Definitely.
They could be doing X or Y, just support them. If they're passionate.
If they're passionate enough, they'll well
thrive.
Anywhere. Yeah, they'll thrive.
Amazing. And on that note, thank you so much for coming on to episode 100, a real milestone. And there's no better way to mark this occasion.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us, Akash.
Thank you so much for being here today on this episode of RNT Fitness Radio. I'd love for you to do a quick little favor for us. Please head over to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating, leave a comment, and share it with your family and friends. If you're interested in learning more about how to transform your body and positively change your life, go to www.rntfitness.com and explore all our free content on offer. Thank you.